Hello YouTube, Infinite Magicraid community, Gandalf here. We're on the server 108 accounts, and originally the plan was to summon Frank, but I failed successfully and got Giselle on early pity, so that plan kind of changed. So in today's video, in the background, we will have me obliterating everybody up in Classic Arena while the Classic Arena event is on. But I'll spend a little bit of time about my journey in Infinite Magicraid, why I haven't quit yet, and what will potentially make me quit. So before I get started, some people said, am I being honest in what I say? Does DH Game pay me money to say the stuff I say? I think many of you already know that I don't actually get paid by DH Games. All the content creators get vouchers, which means it is nice to be a spender without having to pay too much out of pocket, but we're not getting real money out of this. So any content creator that actually relies on making money out of what they do here, they're not going to be here, right? And those are the people who usually will say things just to meet the requirement of the job and then move on once the money is gone, right? AppTOIDE, yes, I get a small cut from AppTOIDE. I help them promote their platform, but end of the day, it is really savings for you, and that is the honest truth. Anybody who used it know it's safe, and they are basically saving a good 20% to 40% if you consider the taxes in total in what they spend, right? So it's a really, really good opportunity. Like even if you're just buying your weekly cards or like a $5 pack, it's still worth it to get it. It'll add up in the long run. Now, for all the haters out there, right, who are saying this game is terrible, or the experience is terrible, the devs are greedy, whatever, but yet you're like the most active person in world chat, it does seem quite strange to me. I guess this must be a really fun and addictive game that all the haters are still willing to stick around. So hopefully that kind of makes a point about this game, is even the haters still enjoy staying around. I really enjoy having meaningful conversation with people, and that's one of the reasons why I'm still doing content creation. When I look at it, when people leave a comment for me, and especially a really long, thoughtful comment, and I would always reply it with a genuine, lengthy response. And thank you, ABC123. I'll put your comment here briefly on the screen here. But you inspired me to make this video and really talk about some of the issues that I see in the game, right? And I will address in the later part of this video. But it's the connection that I'm looking for here. Is if for anyone who knows the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? We all seek a place to belong, and in today's world, people are increasingly ever so lonely, right? Probably most of us who play gacha games are introverted, myself included, and it's nice to actually find people with a common interest. For those of you who do have discords with your guild, especially those who've been playing a really long time, we are actually spending most of the time talking about things outside of the game. And really, it is an opportunity for people to just connect over common interest. Now, when it comes to the community overall, right, what I would say is in this game, the community managers work really hard. So if you ever see them in the main Discord, you really should give them a little bit of appreciation, whether that be Jonas or Ilya or Elia and Doris, who is on mat leave right now. Like, I have not played many games where the community managers are this active in trying to improve the game and engage with the player base. The only one I can remember was like RuneScape, and damn, that was a MMO that I played almost 15-20 years worth. For anyone who is, North America or EU, and you're probably over the age of 30 or 35ish, there's no way you never heard of RuneScape. So, and Mod Shawnee and some of the mods in there, like their monthly, podcasts about the things that are going on in the game, and just these casual fireside chats are awesome, right? And really, it's the community that keeps player going. It's the guild, it's the friendship, it's the journey and the friends you make along the way, right? And that's in an MMO. This is not an MMO. This is a gacha game. But like any other game, I think at the end of it, content will eventually dry out. Every single game ends up being a grind at some point, and you're really there just playing along with friends and casually talking to people. And if you're having a bad day, at least you can be laid back, and do whatever you want. Like in the Mystic chat today, there was an announcement, and just telling people that, hey, look, just lay back, right? And for those of you that are engaged in a lot of the how should I put it? Some of the world chat flaming that's going on in the past month, I really hope people move past that. I mean, the game, we never had that level of craziness in world chat, and that toxicness wasn't in this game before. So I do hope people move past some of those things. Rivalry is rivalry. When it gets to a point where you're just like being overly aggressive and toxic, I don't think that's good for anybody. And people are playing this game for fun. They're not here to fight or do whatever, right? So hopefully people are able to move past that. Now when it comes to Sister Guild, and this goes back to BBABC's comment that I showed earlier, is I do recognize there is a good portion of the game that are casual players, and he made a point about all of these sister guilds in the long term, or having one big massive guild in the game, isn't exactly healthy for the game. I think Barnes actually said something similar to that means. And yes, we did see one guild emerge like to be a super big sister guild. And they basically attracted all the player base, and it became like them versus everybody else, right? At some point, that is not good. If we go back a year or so, there were multiple factions, right? There was One Hope, the Bulls was a large group. We had, Bushido, we had Mystic, there was the rivalry there. But beyond them, there were multiple number of other guilds, right? There was the Magic Turks, right? There was a lot of the Turkish players were together. They had multiple guilds under that. They had, I think that guild kind of moved over to Bushido now. There was the French players, right? A lot of the French-speaking player that was, with Atkar. But I think some point they moved over to the Bulls. These natural consolidation is natural, right? I mean, today we still have like, I think there's a really large Russian guild, Eclipse, and they have a family of guild there. La Clowns and OMG I think those are two French-based guild. Like, if you like to play with people who speak the same language, I think most of us actually do that. It's a global-based game after all. There are guilds for every language, or every primary language that is there, and if you want to play a little bit more competitively, you can, right? And these guilds are showing up, and they do clear all of the guild content accordingly. So, I think it's important to recognize at some point, being part of the guild is actually what's most important for player retention, because at some point you realize you can play any other game. Why do you play this game? Because if we look at the Maslow of hierarchy of needs again, we all have some, natural desire to feel belonged. And that's kind of a human instinct and human nature. So being part of these guilds do fulfill that need. And, I think this is also an opportunity to give a shout out to all of the guild leaders out there. Appreciate your guild masters, your deputies. Like, honestly, it doesn't matter if it's this game or other games. They do a lot for the community and do it for the guild. They're putting in extra time and effort to make sure that the game runs so that you can do content, you're coordinated in taking down shared objectives. So yeah, give your guild leaders, your guild leadership some appreciation there. And especially for the people who are in the really large guilds, right? Running a massive guild when nobody's getting paid. Honestly, I think large guilds are the best definition of a successful organization, because you're really truly aligned on a common vision and objectives, and you're out there to go for a similar goal. This reminds me of times where people actually make videos or talk about, their experience as a leader or a raid leader in WoW is good enough to get people jobs, because that is a lot of leadership there, right? How do you coordinate people, getting people aligned to common objectives, common goals, whether that be scheduling, that is a lot of leadership experience right there. So, good for you, all the guild leaders out there, right? It doesn't matter which game we're talking about. Back to the casual players here. And it's totally fine. Every game has casual players. And maybe you don't like the bigger guilds. You want to be part or just playing with a couple of a few friends, right? Or you're part of a guild maybe that's not that active, and you don't want to get Discord. You don't want to be more involved than just the in-game chat. And that's perfectly fine. And I think this is the part where, I start talking about where one expectation is, well, if you're playing casually, don't expect, to have, the best gear in the game. It's like you won't be playing with players who are super competitive, because birds of the same feathers flock together, right? Even that, right? Like, for example, One Hope, it is a whole bunch of really laid back people, and we don't put that on anybody. And then you got guilds that are a lot more competitive, like the OGs of the Bulls and the OGs of the Mystic Guild. Like, it was a lot of competitive people, A-type personalities in there, and which is really great, right? Like, we all get along really well. I'm friends with a lot of these people, and I'll say more about that later. But that's just expectation, right? But one thing they definitely could have done better is to make sure that even the casual guilds can compete or not get penalized too much. So, for example, with Glory for Battle, I totally recognize the point where the calculation for the guild ranking really shouldn't be the direct sum of the individual team performances, because that just penalizes the smaller guilds too much, right? And that's not good. They really should be more like a weighted ranking, like, how your in-game power is calculated. It's more based on like your few strongest hero, then the next few strongest hero has, less weighting to it, right? And we can easily do that. Like, your top team will be worth, I don't know, like 100% of the points, and the second team might be worth 80%, the third team worth 60%, so on and so forth, right? So smaller guilds but with strong active players will benefit from that. So, why do I try to represent all the guilds? A few times I said, if any of the guild leaders want to reach out, and you don't have a content creator to help you get presence or help recruit for your guild, more than happy to give your guild a shout out. I also recommended everyone go to the main Discord to take a look at the guild recruitment page there if you want to find a bigger community and guild. There is going to be more guild content coming, right? The new boss now really can hope they make that a little bit more balanced and make it easier for some of the more casual guilds out there. Overall, trying to engage the entire player base, helping the game grow, it aligns with my personal objectives, right? I mean, the longer this game lasts, the more AppTOIDE income potential there is, right? But other than that, like, all jokes aside, I mean, this is like a very small gig for me. Like, for those of you who have seen what I make in AppTOIDE, is like a typical month is like no more than 500 USD, right? Like, it's not a lot of money. It is very small compared to my main job, which is also why I will not jeopardize my main job by showing my face on camera or talking too much about my in real life job. So yeah. But yeah, like, there are problems with the game, right? People sometimes say that, I don't talk about enough issues in the game. What I would say is there are problems with the game, and we don't try to hide it. I think the devs are slowly working their way through, but it takes time. For example, recently we got we got finally the skip button for the Lucifer boss, right? That's a time saver. But yeah, I already did a video on pets, right? It is a great piece of content, simply too expensive or difficult for players to get pets. And, we had the Glory of Battle, but that wasn't very well received. So hopefully as they fix it and make it a little bit better and more inclusive, hopefully people will find that, a bit more enjoyable, right? I think everybody realizes LTE is it's a hole they dug for themselves. Yes, it is a major source of revenue for them. But locking free-to-player players away from limited heroes for more than over a year after they're released, or close to a year after they're released, or it is just unnecessarily locking content away. I think at this point, like if we look at my main account here, right? Like if you look at the main composition of these heroes, they're all the latest limited hero in the past few releases. You got Giselle, right? Erato, Murong, Beatrix, and Wukong. The latest 5 heroes seems to be making the besting slot teams for everyone. And the besting slot is to run this with the latest pet, like a 5-star Mana Ray. Literally is the besting slot team right now for Classic Arena. Is that a problem? Yes and no. The whales want a tanky team that's hard to beat, and it's basically flexing their dollars. Are there a workaround on it? And you can see for me, I simply just took out the Beatrix and put it in Panda, and it seems to work incredibly well against all of these teams until I face, Krakens that I can't beat. Like Weak or Gerald or Giro, those few accounts in my cluster here. But they spent the more money into it, right? Now, I think what's important is any hero outside of this, right? Anything that's over a year, they really should just put that on like a more recurring banner. Let the free-to-play players get access to them, make the game a little bit easier for them. It is not going to be game-changing enough for them it's not game-changing enough for them to like start beating the whales, right? We're not expecting the free-to-play to catch up to the whales. We just want them to be able to have a little bit easier time. And some of the older limited heroes, like find more ways to get Rainbow Crystal. Another suggestion I gave was, just give more Rainbow Crystals. Let the recycling of the bad blessings give a little bit more. It's not hard, right? Add Lydia to that box after Esther. I mean, that will be a huge game changer for a lot of the free-to-play players, right? Rebalance the mythic heroes. Rebalance some of the older heroes. There's a huge opportunity right now with the new resonance system that's going to enter into the game. So there are a lot of opportunities, but dev time is limited, right? And they really should try to prioritize some of these development efforts. I have personally sent in suggestions on how you could rework the mythic heroes to them, and they have taken a look at it. So hopefully, we'll see more about that in the coming month. But right now, like they even specifically reach out to specific player groups and ask for player feedback surveys so that they can, be more targeted and surgical in the way they prioritize the roadmaps. So, where does that, leave me and in this video? I think, back to the title of the video, why am I still around? I think pretty much all of these are the reasons that I'm actually still sticking around. Have I thought about quitting? Yeah, absolutely, many times. And, when Smork was my first guild, right? Smork, server 16, when the content creator was leaving and all of the people decided to go play another game, the remaining people, they passed me leadership, and basically I could have either disbanded the guild or merged with somebody else. And that was the time when I met Karzak, and I reached out and I was like, hey, look, it's really hard to run a guild. Can we be part of a broader community so it's easier to keep people staffed up and, leverage your star power at that time to, get a few people. So we became we merged into one of the Bulls guild. Bulls hit at that time. It was like the third or fourth guild on that list. And over time, we were able to grow stronger and stronger through that. Now and then at some point, Panda Geddon, he isn't around too much anymore, but he's still somewhat in the community. He gave me, a Kraken account that I left playing for free to play. That was, the days of Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White, those two accounts earlier. You see those in my videos. But at some point I was like, okay, this is way too much, taking up too much time. That was the time when I took, some time away from the game. I gave one of them away. I went back to playing Genshin Impact for a while. I played a couple other games. I think Overmortal was one of them. Another one was like a puzzle game. I played some MOBA in between as well. So yeah, it wasn't my main game for a period of time. And, when I came back to this as a main game when Panda, they finally let me into the content creator program a bit. And even that, in the content creator program, I was still playing a few other games because it was just, period of time, there's content drought, things get boring. And really what kept me going a lot of the time is the people in the guild that keep me going. Is the friends you make along the way and the expectation from the audience. And my engagement with you, right? Like seeing the channel grow was very motivating. Seeing all the people who were interested and asking questions and exchanging with me, that kept me going. That was and at some point I felt like I had a very positive influence on the community. And it felt like, I kind of really wanted to just keep this going and help grow the game. And that was kind of, where I left it at. So if you do like these kind of videos and you want to get to know me a little bit better and just hear me yap along, be more than happy to do that. In this video, I welcome you to put as many questions and comments you want, and I will get to every single one of them. It's always fun chatting with the community as a whole. All right, I hope you enjoyed my yapping. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Gandalf out.